I was manipulated into being the family servant for years until Reddit helped me see the shocking truth. I never thought my life would revolve around someone else's kids, yet here I am. At 25, I should be living the dream. Fresh college graduate, decent job at Thompson and Baker, my own apartment, and even my trusty Honda that's seen better days but still gets me where I need to go. Financial independence was supposed to mean freedom. Funny how things work out. My sister Melissa has had me wrapped around her finger since we were kids. Now she's got a picture-perfect life. Handsome husband Tom with his consulting job, beautiful house in the suburbs, and 3 boys who are, well, let's just say energetic. Benny's 8 and thinks he's indestructible. Carter's 6 and has never met a rule he couldn't break. Luke's 4 and somehow combines the worst qualities of both his brothers. Ryan, please. Melissa's voice would crack with that perfect mix of desperation and authority she'd mastered. The babysitter canceled again. You're the only one the boys listen to. That was her excuse anyway. Truth is, Melissa doesn't trust anyone else with her precious boys, not even professional childcare providers who actually get paid for the job. Meanwhile, I get compensated with cold pizza and the occasional "thanks, bro." Last summer was when I finally realized how bad things had gotten. Mom and Dad planned this beach vacation, paid for my room and everything. Should have been a week of sun, surf, and maybe meeting someone interesting at the resort bar. Instead, I found myself sharing a room with Hurricane Benny, Tornado Carter, and Tsunami Luke, while Melissa and Tom enjoyed their private ocean view suite. "We need a break," Melissa had said, as if I wasn't entitled to one myself. The first morning, I woke to Luke jumping on my chest, Carter emptying the mini-fridge, and Benny trying to climb out onto the balcony. This wasn't a vacation. It was an unpaid babysitting gig with a view. "Uncle Ryan, watch this," became the soundtrack to my nightmare as the boys wreaked havoc across the resort. Every time I tried to relax, I'd hear Melissa call out, "Ryan, can you handle this? We're just going to the spa for a bit." By day 3, with sunburn on my shoulders and someone else's melted ice cream on my only good shirt, I started to wonder, was this going to be my life forever? The eternal uncle/babysitter? As I watched Melissa and Tom stroll hand in hand along the beach while I supervised sandcastle construction, something inside me began to shift. There had to be a way out of this trap my family had set, right? That vacation was supposed to be different. "You'll have plenty of time to yourself," Mom had promised when she handed me the printed itinerary. "The resort has activities for the kids most days." What a joke. By day 4, I'd built 17 sandcastles, applied sunscreen 43 times, and prevented at least 9 potential emergency room visits. Meanwhile, Melissa and Tom were reconnecting at couples yoga and sunset cruises. I tried to stay positive. "It's just a week," I kept telling myself. But every morning when I woke up to the chaos of 3 boys jumping on my bed, that mantra became harder to believe. The resort had this amazing art gallery I'd read about online, traveling exhibition of modern sculpture that I'd been dying to see. When I mentioned wanting to check it out during breakfast one morning, Melissa barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, that sounds nice. Maybe you can take the boys. Luke's been really into building blocks lately, so he might enjoy the sculptures." Just like that, my one personal interest was transformed into another kid activity. Tom, who was busy scanning work emails, didn't even pretend to notice the conversation. Later that afternoon, I was sitting by the pool watching the kids splash around when Mom sat down beside me. "You're so good with them," she said, patting my knee. "Melissa is lucky to have you." "Yeah, but what about what I want?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. Mom looked surprised. "What do you mean? Aren't you having fun?" "Fun?" I'd spent the morning cleaning melted popsicles off my phone and fishing pool toys out from under deck chairs. I just thought I might get to do some things for myself on this trip. "Like what?" "There's an art exhibition I wanted to see." "Well, go see it then. Nobody's stopping you." She said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. "Every time I try, something comes up with the kids." Mom frowned. "Ryan, we're on a family vacation. Everyone needs to pitch in." "But I'm pitching in all day, every day. When's the last time you asked Melissa to pitch in with anything?" Mom's expression hardened. "Your sister is a full-time mother. She deserves a break." "And what am I, the hired help?" That night at dinner, things came to a head. I'd finally reached my breaking point after Benny spilled an entire mocktail on my last clean shirt and Melissa just handed me napkins without even looking up from her conversation with Dad. I'm going to the evening showing at the gallery, I announced. Alone. Melissa's head snapped up. But we were going to take the kids to the beach bonfire. They've been looking forward to it all day. I've been looking forward to this exhibition since before we got here. It's one night, Ryan, Tom chimed in, suddenly interested in family dynamics when it affected his evening plans. Can't you see it tomorrow? Tomorrow's the last day it's here, I said, standing my ground. And I've given up every other night this week. Melissa's eyes narrowed. So you're just abandoning us. The kids will be so disappointed. Dad cleared his throat. Ryan, be reasonable. Your mother and I paid for this vacation as a gift, not as payment for childcare services. The table fell silent. Even the kids stopped fidgeting, sensing the tension. That's really ungrateful, Melissa finally said, her voice quiet but sharp. We include you in everything, and this is how you thank us? By making me out to be some kind of villain because I asked for a little help? A little help? I haven't had a single moment to myself this entire trip. Mom's disapproving look cut deep. Ryan, that's enough. You're being selfish. Family helps family. In that moment, watching Melissa's hurt expression and my parents' disappointment, I felt like the bad guy. Again. No matter how valid my feelings were, I would always be the villain for wanting anything for myself. I pushed my chair back and stood up. I'm going to the gallery. I'll be back to put the kids to bed. As I walked away, I heard Melissa mutter, See? He always does this. Makes a scene and then abandons us. Something inside me hardened. This wasn't just about a vacation anymore. This was about the rest of my life. I managed to see that exhibition after all, though I spent the whole time checking my phone, half expecting emergency texts about the boys. When I returned to put them to bed as promised, Melissa barely spoke to me. The rest of that vacation was awkward, with forced smiles and tense silences. I thought we'd moved past it in the months since. Then came my mom's group text last week. Beach house booked for June 14th, 21. Same place as last year. David and I have reserved rooms for everyone. Can't wait for our annual tradition. My stomach dropped. Annual tradition? Last year was the first time we'd done this particular trip, and now it was suddenly a tradition? I waited a day before responding, weighing my options. Then I called Mom directly, instead of replying to the group text. Hey, sweetie, she answered. Did you get my message about the beach house? Yeah, about that. I don't think I'll be joining this year. Silence. Then, what do you mean? I mean I'm not coming, at least not the way we did it last year. But we've already paid for your room, Mom said, her voice rising slightly. It's all arranged. I appreciate that, Mom, but I'd rather book my own room and drive myself. That makes no sense, Ryan. Why would you waste money when we've already covered it? I took a deep breath. Because last year wasn't a vacation for me. It was a week of unpaid babysitting. That's not fair, Mom said, her voice hardening. We all pitched in with the kids. No, Mom, we didn't. I was with them constantly while everyone else relaxed. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, she said, in that tone that meant she wasn't sorry at all. But your father and I have already paid, and the boys are counting on seeing their uncle. I'll still be there, I said, just on my own terms. Dad called the next day. He skipped the pleasantries. Your mother's upset, he said. What's this about getting your own room? I want my own space this year, Dad. Last time was too much. Too much? He sounded genuinely confused. It's family, Ryan. Since when is family too much? It's not about being with family. It's about having no time to myself because I was constantly watching Melissa's kids. They're your nephews, he said, as if that explained everything. And this separate room business is going to cost you a fortune. The resort is expensive. I can afford it, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure I could. Don't be ridiculous. We're trying to help you save money. I'd rather spend the money and actually enjoy my vacation. That's when Melissa called. I let it go to voicemail, but she kept calling. On the fourth attempt, I answered. How could you? She demanded without preamble. Mom is beside herself. Hello to you too. Don't be smart with me. What's your problem? We're offering you a free vacation. It's not free if I have to work the whole time, I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Work? What are you talking about? Watching your kids, Melissa? All day, every day? She laughed, actually laughed. That's not work, that's being an uncle. God, Ryan, some people would kill to have a free beach vacation. Then invite them instead, I suggested. There was a pause. Then her voice dropped to that emotional whisper she uses when she wants to make you feel guilty. I can't believe how selfish you're being. Do you have any idea how hard it is for me with 3 boys? I'm practically a single mom with how much Tom works. You're not a single mom, Melissa. You have a husband with a great job that lets you stay home. Wow, she said. Just wow. I thought you of all people would understand how overwhelming motherhood is. I'm not a mother, Melissa. I'm your brother, and I've done more than my share of helping with your kids. The phone call ended with her in tears and me feeling like garbage, despite knowing I was right. Then came the group messages from both parents. Mom's message was all emotional manipulation. We just want the family together. It would break my heart if you weren't with us. Dad was more direct. Stop this nonsense. We're family and family sticks together. Don't make your mother cry over this. As their texts piled up, I felt that familiar pressure building. The need to cave, to keep the peace. It would be so much easier to just go along with their plan. But then I remembered how miserable I was last year, trapped in that hotel room with 3 kids while everyone else had their vacation. No, not this time. I typed my response with shaking fingers. I'll be there June 14th. I've already booked my own room at the Dunes Hotel down the beach. Looking forward to spending quality time with everyone. Then I turned off my phone, knowing the storm that was coming. When I turned my phone back on the next morning, there were 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. I ignored them all and instead opened Reddit. I'd never posted there before, but desperate times and all that. I typed out everything. Last year's vacation disaster, the current pressure to repeat it, my decision to book separately. I ended with, so Reddit, AITA for refusing to be the family's free babysitter anymore? I closed the app and went to work, not expecting much. By lunchtime, my post had exploded. Thousands of upvotes, hundreds of comments, nearly all of them supportive. NTA, your sister is using you. They're her kids, not yours. Stand your ground, man. Reading those responses felt like a weight lifting. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I was being taken advantage of. Then my phone rang. Melissa. What the actual hell, Ryan? She was practically screaming. You posted our private family business on the internet? My stomach dropped. How did you? Your coworker Jason's wife follows that subreddit. She recognized the situation and showed him, and he texted me. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I didn't use real names, I said weakly. Oh, like that matters. You made me sound like some kind of monster who exploits her brother. That's not what Those people are calling me entitled. They're saying I'm a bad mother who can't handle her own kids. I never said you were a bad mother, I insisted. You didn't have to. You painted this picture of poor, victimized Ryan stuck babysitting while mean old Melissa lives it up. Do you know how hard motherhood is? How exhausting? Of course I do, because I've been helping you since day one. She went quiet for a moment. I need your help, Ryan. I can't do this alone. You're not alone. You have Tom. She laughed bitterly. Tom works 60 hours a week. He comes home and plays with the boys for 20 minutes before dinner, then disappears into his office. Do you think I wanted 3 kids this close together? We barely survive some days. For a second, I felt that familiar guilt. Then I remembered all those times she'd gone for spa days while I built Lego towers with the boys. I'm sorry it's hard, Melissa, but I'm not your co-parent. I deserve my own life too. So that's it? You're abandoning us? I'm not abandoning anyone. I'll still be at the beach, just in my own room. God, you're so selfish. Mom is devastated. The call ended with her hanging up on me. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Call your mother, now. Mom was crying when I called. How could you put our family business online for strangers to judge? We raised you better than that. I needed perspective, I said. I felt like I was going crazy with everyone telling me I was wrong. And what did these internet strangers tell you? Her voice was sharp despite the tears. That I'm not wrong for wanting boundaries. She sighed heavily. Ryan, families don't have boundaries. We're there for each other, period. Even when it's completely one-sided? What are you talking about? We do everything for you. Like what? Name one thing you've done for me recently that didn't ultimately benefit Melissa or the kids. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. We, we paid for your vacation last year, she finally said. The vacation where I didn't get to do a single thing I wanted because I was watching three kids 24/7? Another long pause. I didn't realize you were so unhappy. Something in her voice had changed, a note of uncertainty where there had only been righteous indignation before. I love the boys, I said softly, but I'm not their parent and I'm tired of being treated like I am. I need to talk to your father, she said. And Melissa, this isn't what we intended. After we hung up, I checked Reddit again. The verdict was overwhelming. Not the asshole. For the first time in years, I felt validated. Whether my family came around or not, I knew I wasn't crazy for wanting my own life. The next few days were eerily quiet. No calls from Melissa, no guilt-tripping texts from Mom. Only Dad sent a brief message asking if we could all meet at their house on Sunday. I agreed, knowing this conversation was long overdue. I spent the drive to my parents rehearsing what I wanted to say. No more dancing around the issue. No more backing down to keep the peace. When I arrived, everyone was already there. Mom and Dad sitting stiffly on the couch, Melissa in the armchair, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. I noticed Tom was absent, conveniently working weekend hours again. Thank you for coming, Dad began formally, as if this were a business meeting. We thought it was important to talk face-to-face after recent events. Mom couldn't maintain the professional facade. Ryan, I just don't understand why you felt the need to air our private matters to strangers on the internet. Because I wasn't being heard, I said simply. Every time I tried to express how I felt, you all made me feel selfish and ungrateful. That's not true, Melissa interjected. We've always appreciated your help. I laughed without humor. Appreciated? When? Was it when you dumped the boys on me every night of our vacation without asking? Or when you called me selfish for wanting a single evening to myself? You're exaggerating, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Am I? Last summer, how many hours did you spend watching your own kids? How many did I spend watching them? She looked away. Dad cleared his throat. Maybe we've taken advantage of your good nature, son. You've always been so good with the boys. I love those kids, I said, feeling my throat tighten. But that doesn't make me responsible for raising them. That's not fair to me, and honestly, it's not fair to them either. Mom looked puzzled. What do you mean? They deserve parents who are present, not pawned off on their uncle whenever it's convenient. Melissa's face flushed. That's completely unfair. I'm with them all day, every day. I just needed breaks sometimes. Everyone needs breaks, I agreed. But you can't expect me to sacrifice my entire life to provide them. The room fell silent. Dad looked genuinely thoughtful, while Mom seemed torn between defending Melissa and acknowledging my point. Finally, Dad spoke. We never meant to make you feel used, Ryan. Your mother and I, we thought we were helping everyone. Giving you family time, giving Melissa support. I know you meant well, I said, softening slightly, but the way it played out wasn't okay. Mom wiped away a tear. I'm sorry we didn't listen. When I read those comments online, it made me realize how this must look from the outside. It's not about how it looks, I insisted. It's about respect. My time and my choices matter too. Melissa stood abruptly. So what now? You're just done with us, with the boys? No, of course not. I'm just done being the default childcare. I want to be their uncle, not their third parent. But what am I supposed to do? Her voice cracked. Tom works constantly. Mom and Dad have their own lives. The same thing other parents do, I said gently. Find actual childcare. Join a parents' group for playdates. Talk to Tom about being more present. Dad nodded slowly. He's right, Melissa. You can't rely on Ryan forever. For the first time, I saw my sister look truly lost. I don't know how to do this without you, she admitted quietly. You'll figure it out, I assured her. And I'll still be around, just on my terms. As the meeting wound down, we reached an uneasy truce. I would still go to the beach, staying at my separate hotel. I'd see the family, but only for specific planned activities, no open-ended babysitting. Driving home, I felt lighter than I had in years, though not entirely satisfied. Real change would take time. Mom had hugged me before I left, whispering, "I had no idea how much we were asking of you." Dad had clapped my shoulder with newfound respect. Even Melissa had managed a stiff nod of acknowledgement. But the true test would be the vacation. Would they respect the boundaries I'd set or fall back into old patterns at the first opportunity? I wasn't sure yet if I could trust their promises, but for the first time I was prepared to walk away if they broke them. One thing was certain. I wasn't going back to being the family doormat. Ever again. June 14th arrived faster than I expected. I packed my car, checked into my own hotel room at the dunes, and braced myself for whatever came next. My phone buzzed with a text from Melissa just an hour after I arrived. "We're heading to the beach. Boys are asking for you." No hello, no how was your drive. Just straight to the implied obligation. I took a deep breath and replied, "Enjoying my first day solo. We'll see everyone for dinner as planned." Three dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared before her response came through. Fine. That afternoon, I visited the art gallery I'd missed last year. I lingered over each sculpture, read every plaque, and even chatted with a docent about the exhibit. No interruptions, no sticky hands pulling at my sleeve, no constant head counting to make sure no one had wandered off. At dinner, I arrived to find chaos at the family's table. Luke crying over spilled juice, Carter refusing to eat, Benny loudly recounting every detail of their beach day. Melissa looked frazzled, Tom was on his phone, and my parents wore fixed smiles that screamed silent desperation. "Uncle Ryan!" Benny shouted when he saw me. "Can you sit by me?" I did, but when Melissa immediately stood up saying, "Great, now that Ryan's here, I'm going to use the restroom." I didn't miss her meaningful glance at the kids. "Take your time," I said pleasantly. "I'm sure Tom can handle things if anything comes up while you're gone." Tom looked up from his phone, startled, as Melissa hesitated before walking away. Throughout the week, there were more attempts. "The boys want you to build sandcastles with them while we get massages," and "Would you mind watching a movie with them in your room tonight? Tom and I need some alone time." Each time, I deflected without drama. "Sounds fun, but I've got plans today." Or, "Maybe tomorrow during our scheduled family time." By midweek, something remarkable happened. Melissa hired an actual babysitter for their date night. My parents stepped up to watch the boys for a few hours instead of automatically volunteering me. And most surprisingly, Tom put his phone away and took the kids swimming one afternoon. "This vacation feels different," Mom said, joining me on my balcony one evening. "That's because I'm actually having one this time," I replied. She nodded slowly. "I never realized how much we relied on you. It wasn't fair." On our last night, I joined everyone for dinner again. The atmosphere was lighter somehow. The boys were still rowdy, but Melissa seemed less stressed, Tom more engaged. My parents watched me with a new respect. "So," Dad said during dessert, "same time next year?" I felt everyone tense, waiting for my answer. "I'd like that," I said. "Same arrangement too. My own room, my own schedule." To my surprise, Melissa nodded. "That seems fair." Back home a week later, I was having coffee at my favorite spot when Sarah, a woman I'd noticed there before, asked if she could share my table. 2 hours of conversation later, we exchanged numbers. Our first official date was the following weekend. When she asked about my family, I told her everything. The years of being the default babysitter, the Reddit post, the final stand. I expected judgment, or at least discomfort. Instead, she shared her own boundary struggles with her family. "It takes courage to break patterns like that," she said. As I drove home, I realized something profound had shifted. Not just with my family, but within myself. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't carrying that familiar weight of obligation and resentment. I still love my nephews. I still see them regularly, on my terms. But now, when Melissa calls, it's to catch up, not to demand my time. When I visit, it's because I want to, not because I'm guilted into it. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't against others, but against the patterns we've allowed to define us. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean losing your family. Sometimes it means finding a healthier way to love them.